J29 here, and welcome to my very first series review of 2012. Firstly, my apologies, I couldn't do my Wrath of the Titans series review last week. I know I said I was going to do that on my pre-review video I released in December, but I got caught up with school and exams and whatnot, so looks like that isn't going to be able to happen. Instead, I decided to turn to a completely different series, one that I didn't actually say I was going to do in the preview video I just mentioned, but once I saw the actual movies, decided that in the spirit of teenagehood, I pretty much had to. That movie series, if you haven't read by now, is American Pie. Since the original movie came out almost 13 years ago, the American Pie movies have become staples as teenage films, classic films, you name it, they've gotten all the comments. In fact, I've heard several people who have told me in college that they grew up with them even as early as junior high. I actually had not seen them until just a few weeks ago, actually, but I enjoyed them, so I decided to do a series review of them. However, do they really hold up the way most people think they do? Which one's the best and which one's the weakest? Well, those are big questions. And with American Reunion coming out this Friday, I decided to look over the first 3 American Pie movies, that being American Pie, American Pie 2, and American Wedding. Now, I'm not going over any of those spin-off movies like Beta House or Naked Mile or whatnot, mainly because I haven't seen them, and from what I hear, they're not really canon the way the other movies are. But I'll make a video on that sometime later. In the meantime, though, let's start with the very first movie from 1999, American Pie. So, the story is about as basic as you could get from a teenage movie. We have Jim Levinstein, a high school senior, played by then unknown actor Jason Biggs, who's pretty much your average high school nerd. He's always flocking behind women and ogling them rather than actually being able to romance with them. In fact, there's one point very early on in the movie where he's talking to one of his friends and he says the line, I love this line, "Did you see the Little Mermaid on TV yesterday, Ariel? She's so hot." I crack up on that line. I think that's great, though. Just gotta say, Jim, I feel ya. I love her too. But while he's far from a ladies' man, Jim definitely has some friends that he hangs out with on a regular basis, including Oz, a sports star played by Chris Klein, Finch, played by Eddie K. Thomas, and Kevin, played by Thomas Ian Nichols. The 4 of them are enjoying their senior year until one party, which is, by the way, hosted by school profanity and troublemaker, per se, Steven Stifler, played by Sean William Scott. At said party, a guy they know supposedly has sex with a really attractive woman, and the 4 boys decide to make a pact. They want to all lose their virginity before prom night. Thus, they don't go to college unexperienced, if you believe it. And the movie that follows is essentially following how they plan to achieve this goal. Along the way, they not only learn lessons about high school and whatnot, but we also meet a whole bunch of other colorful and will also all be famous characters, such as Jim's awkward dad, played by Eugene Levy, Jim's gorgeous love interest, Nadia, played by Shannon Elizabeth, and, of course, Michelle, the band geek who would never shut up, played by actually known actress back at the time, Allison Hannigan. So, when I decided to look at this movie, I really kind of wanted to look at what it was so many people enjoyed about it. And when I talked to some people, they all had the same response. It's the comedy. It's the gross-out gags that everyone remembers. The scenes where Stifler gives Finch laxative and he has to run to the girls' bathroom. The scene where Jim does things, quote-unquote, with an apple pie. The scene where he strips in front of the girl he loves, Nadia, unaware that it's being broadcast to practically everyone in high school. That's what is is considered the backbone of this movie. And I'll admit, some of it works well. I can definitely see how this target audience is for teenage guys from high school to young college. But on a whole, despite a few scenes, I'm actually not really a fan of the comedy in this movie. Yeah, you heard me right. The backbone of this movie, it doesn't really work for me. And maybe it's just a nitpick because I'm very hard to please with comedies. You can take some of the greatest comedies of all time and show them to me, and sometimes I either just won't care for them or can't even stand them. But I don't know. So the gross out humor for me, again, it has to be done well for me. And maybe it is, but for me personally, it just didn't work. I wasn't really laughing at some of the gags. I was actually cringing, if you can believe it. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the comedy aspect of this, except for one or two scenes. One of them being the stripping scene, but yeah. So, essentially, I just slammed what I think most all of you love about this movie. What could I possibly like about it enough to actually decide to do a series review? Well, to me personally, what I think is the best thing about this movie isn't the comedy, it's the interactions between the characters and the drama. Now, I know American Pie is not a straightforward drama movie. In fact, it's probably at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, but that I actually think works better than the comedy. I really like all these characters. Not only are they enjoyable, but they're also really memorable. I'm sure everyone could find a character in this movie that they relate with. They all have different personalities. They're all interesting. And that was what really surprised me about this movie, that it's not along the lines of something that just goes for poop jokes or stuff like that. This actually decided it wanted to take itself a little more seriously. And also, not only do I like the characters, I also like the drama and the romances between them. And I thought all of these were investable. You care about what's going to go on between Oz and his girlfriend Heather, played by Mena Suvari. You care about what's going to happen between Kevin and his girlfriend Vicky, played by Tara Reid, and you want to know what ends up with Jim, and which I won't spoil what happens. I'll reveal that in the next two movies, though. If you've even seen the trailers for all of these, you probably already know, but that's what I think really makes this movie. Yeah, okay, a few of the gags work, but for me personally, that's what just kept me invested all the time. And I just find it surprising because I think I don't really like the stuff that's aimed for the teenage guys and more of the stuff that's aimed for the teenage and college girls. But, you know, every movie works on different ways. And if you throw in a really catchy soundtrack like this movie has, you get yourself a really good and instantly classic teen movie that I can respect and honestly see how it became the franchise it is now. So while I do believe, going back to what I said earlier, that this movie is more intended for late high schoolers, just like I watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off for the first time last year, I think I'm still in the age radius when I can enjoy it. And to everyone else who is that age radius, I can definitely recommend this movie. It's a very good time, and luckily it did stay that way for a little while. So, on a whole, 3.5 stars for American Pie 1. Looking forward to seeing the rest of the movies and reviewing them for you. You can find all my movie reviews on my YouTube channel. If you have a movie you'd like me to review, comment on this video or on my channel. Subscribe if you like, and until next time,